Hello, for my lesson plans station presentation, I chose the fourth grade history, and then geography was included in this lesson as well, so they kind of overlapped. So those were the TEKs that I chose. The TEKs were 4.4 history. The student understands the political, economic, and social changes in Texas during the last half of the 19th century. The student is expected to, which is 4.4C, identify the impact of railroads on life in Texas, including changes to cities and major industries. Geography, which is 4.8, the student understands the location and patterns of settlement and the geographic factors that influence where people live. The student is expected to, 4.8A, identify and explain clusters and patterns of settlement in Texas at different time periods, such as prior to the Texas Revolution, after the building of the railroads, and following the World War II. 4.8B was describe and explain the location and distribution of various towns and cities in Texas, past and present. Now, the social studies skills TEKs were 4.21 and 4.22 and 4.22D, which are the student applies critical thinking skills to organize and use information acquired from a variety of valid sources, including electronic technology. The student communicates in written, oral, and visual forms. The student is expected to create written and visual materials such as journal entries, reports, graphic organizers, outlines, and bibliographies. So prior to us doing the station, we briefly had a lesson plan that we were talking about the Frontier Texas era. And this time period includes cattle drives, frontier wars, and the creation of the railroad. So we just ended our lesson on how the railroad impacted Texas. Okay, so now we're going to go into stations. When you get to your social studies station, you will be looking at a handout called the Railroad Lines, and it looks like this. And then once you look at that, you're going to see all kinds of information on there. And then there's also a second handout called Railroad Line Analysis, and it looks like this. Hope you can see it. I'm not sure if you can see the first one. The first one looked like this. And then the second one looked like this. Normally, I would have it already printed out in my hands and I would have it to show them. But my printer's on the blink, so I was unable to do that for this particular video. Okay, so moving on. So when you get to we're in the stations and we're going over what the worksheets look like. And then I would actually talk about what each of the worksheets, look like and explain it. And then I would say on this handout, the one that's called Railroad Line Analysis, and after I showed them what it looked like, I would say there are two columns. In the first column to the left, there are questions, and then the second column to the right has the word evidence. And then I would ask them, so what do you think you will be finding? Wait for them to answer. Yes, evidence to each question. You're right. So it would be evidence to each question. Then I would ask them, how would you find the evidence? Wait for them to answer. Yes, you're right. The handout that has the two pictures of Texas on it. And then I would also have, during our stations, I will let them know that we'll also have a song about railroads playing in the background for them. So this way they can enjoy listening to that. And then I would go into just explain to them that they can use the maps on the page 1 of the handout to answer the questions on page 2. Some of the questions were, why were more railroad lines built in Texas? Which region of Texas changed the most because of the railroad lines, which new towns or cities were established or grew because of the railroads. Name one industry that grew because of the railroads. Then they would gather their information about the impact of the railroads in Texas. And then I would let them, after stations were over, we would gather back and we would talk about our answers that we found on our worksheets. And then I would give them the answer key and they could grade their own papers, or we could exchange and see how it goes from there. And that would be my station time for social studies. Thank you.